grab my analog notes. I'm going analog today.
Which
I did no digital research.
Yeah, you threw a screwball at, or a curveball. Sorry.
Yeah, I like Screwball. Screwball's different. Something new.
Yeah, but I feel like it's the intent of it. You know, like I feel like a curveball, you're not necessarily trying to screw someone over.
You're getting the baseball reference. It's like
but
something unexpected.
A screwball, you're trying to screw someone over with it. I mean, it's in the name.
Or a screwball is like a jagoff, like
yes,
like the goofball idiot that's just not contributing to the endeavor.
Like a screwball comedy.
Not unlike the screwball comedy we're reviewing today.
Yeah, I didn't even mean to do that, honestly.
Perfect segue. I like it. We had luck would have it. We have how many holidays have we hit this year on release day? Uncountable.
A handful, couple.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Within the last year, an absurd amount for Mondays.
I don't keep
God help
track.
us that this many holidays are going for a Monday. The case of the Mondays.
That is true.
Yeah, today is April Fool's Day.
Yes, today is April Fool's Day. We're not recording this before.
We don't.
This is live. We'll do it live.
As far as April Fools go, there is no bigger fool than Joey Boca.
Indeed.
The classic, highly unknown Larry Kasdan classic film. I love the low budget nature of this movie. Like there's a lot of little ways it's blatantly apparent.
Yeah, and we are talking about I Love You to Death.
By Larry Kasdan in 1990, if memory serves.
Yeah, and Larry Kasdan, I feel like people be more familiar with some of his other work.
Big Chill,
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
So
some Star Wars ties as well. I forget.
Yeah, as well. Yeah, big
ones.
ties between Lucas and Spielberg with him.
Yeah.
But I think this was he directed. He
also has a cameo in the film. He's the lawyer. He's River Phoenix's lawyer at the end, which I'll definitely get back into. But a lot of I have like such a personal history with this film.
Yes, you do. And you were saying like one that not many people know. I didn't even know about it.
Yeah.
Until
I only know it because like back in the 90s, it played on HBO like all the time. So every time it was on, I just watched it because it was so funny.
Yeah, this is similar to when we did The Phantom.
Yeah.
How it was one of those movies that was just on all the time.
Might be a bit of a guilty pleasure, but I think that I personally think this one's just a little bit more of like an actual gem unknown. Maybe not play apples and oranges.
No. But I would agree. But it had that same notoriety in the sense of like you knew it because it was just on TV all the time.
Yeah, and it's just the nature of like the Italian family and just like Italian family movies strike a chord with me because I grew up in a hardcore Italian family, and just the nature of how important food is and a lot of the other absurdities that tend to be stereotyped towards Italians just really struck home. And especially me and my mother, we used to laugh our asses off at this movie. We still do. I told her I was doing this one for April Fools, and she was laughing so hard.
I was pleasantly surprised.
I introduced you
how
to
much
this one,
I enjoyed
right?
this. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I just said that.
You're not listening to me. About a year ago or so, right? Something like that.
A little over, more than a year ago, I think.
Yeah, and I was shocked and amazed that anybody else cared about this movie. Well, it seemed like one of those ones that only I knew about.
No, I had never heard of it before, and there's a lot of big names in it.
Yeah, like it's especially Academy Award winners, especially like within William Hurt, Joan Plowright, who plays the mother, Rosalie's mother,
Kevin
Kline, who won just a year before this, which is even like this is his next role after winning an Academy Award. A lot of cool little, and also the fact that William Hurt won a few years before, and he plays the unforgettable role of Harlan.
Yes,
Harlan and Marlon. I will get into. They are absolute gems of this film.
No, this is definitely one I would say if you've never seen it. This truly is, I think, the epitome of a nice little hidden gem.
Yeah,
you could argue
and I will be going down this. I'm going all in on it. I'm spoiler territory. If you do want to check this one out, I highly encourage watching it and coming back to us because it's a damn good comedy. It's Coen Brothers-esque.
Yeah, I'd say it has a little bit. Yeah,
like there's an element of that kind of like absurdity humor.
It certainly doesn't have the darker streak or the harsher tone that a Coen Brothers would take.
But as far as like an early 90s take, it does have a flair.
But that situational comedy using like dramatic things and poking fun at them, definitely.
And like just totally like goofball characters, like caricature characters in like abnormal ways.
No, absolutely.
I like my notes. I know I sent them to you. They are like, I literally just like wrote down the dialogue of the movie. Because like it is such a quotable piece of gold.
Yeah.
This movie. Like,
this has, when we talk about like comedy is extremely hard to do.
Yeah.
I would argue it's more difficult to do than drama. That's my own opinion.
well, also, I mean, like it's easy to make a joke and be funny. It's an entirely different thing to be sustainable for the duration of a shoot.
Yeah.
And get the jokes that were captured in the script out to the audience.
Well, yeah, and what
Effective.
some people find, what one person finds funny, someone else might not.
Yeah.
And
And
I
you
just
have
think
to be
from
open to that nature of improvisation on the day because like,
Yeah.
everybody's going to have different ideas about how a joke's going to play, you know?
Yeah, timing and cadence is a huge issue. And
Yeah.
I think when you're writing a script or a comedy, it structurally, everything works the same as a drama would, as a, the characters, the turning points.
A lot of the times in the way that it's shot, if if a comedy's done really well, it will look very similar to a drama.
Yeah. So all those same building blocks are there. It's just not only does it have to work the same way a drama would, it also has to make you laugh, which
Yeah.
is very, very tough.
And can be very dwelling on the characters a lot of the time, like having good character situations, having good timing with, your actors. That often falls down on the director-actor collaboration for that to really succeed.
And two, you always have to be careful how much you take, especially in this movie. Like if you're going to go with more of a painful take on it, you have to be careful with how graphic you're going to be in certain aspects of the story, what you're going to show, what you're not going to show. I think one of the examples is if you show the classic like chandelier moment falling down on someone, that can be funny in some respects in the way you shoot it, the way the person reacts. Even if they're dead, even if it kills them, you might find yourself busting out laughing. But if it does it in a way that's very horrific, then it doesn't come off funny. I always find that interesting how comedy takes one thing one way and then just a slight little nudge and you've bordered on into horror territory then.
Yeah, it can easily be done for sure.
Yeah.
To get into the story here of I Love You to Death, Kevin Kline, we mentioned he got hot off the heels of his Academy Award win for Fish Called Wanda in his supporting role. So he was riding pretty high, and Kasdan was a fairly well-established name at this point, if I'm not mistaken.
He was more known for his screenwriting.
Yeah. The movie was directed by Lawrence Kasdan and written by John Costmeyer. Joey Boca, our main character, arguably, actually, I guess Rosalie's our main character technically. Joey is kind of the central character. A lot is revolving around him, we'll say.
Yes. I mean, Joey definitely has the arc. I'd say he goes through the biggest arc of anyone.
He's the one who makes the change,
Yeah, but it is more of an ensemble piece than I think you would want to say at first glance. But if I had to pick, I would still say Joey is the main character just because he goes through the arc.
Yeah, you could probably argue this one a little bit, but I would agree with you. But Joey Boca owns a pizza shop and several apartment buildings, or at least one apartment building, as he's constantly renting out, which is how he gets into some of his endeavors that we're going to get into here. We slowly find out in the very early parts of the movie that he is a very unfaithful husband to his wife.
Yes.
He's a great father. He's not a total despicable piece of garbage.
Yeah.
But he is at least partly a despicable piece of garbage because he's running around on his wife to an unbelievable degree. The first scene that we see, he's going into confession and he just keeps like rattling off and remembering more and more times just in the last week that he has slept around on his wife. And the number just keeps going up and up and up. And the priest is just sitting there in total shock like at this whole thing unfolding. And as we see him running the day-to-day at the pizza shop in the early parts of the film, we learn that he like kind of knows everybody around town. This is in TACOMA that the story takes place. And he runs the pizza shop with his wife, Rosali. We learn that Rosalie's very innocent in the early parts of the film. She doesn't really She takes note that Joey's hitting on other girls, but she doesn't think that he would ever dare actually cheat on her. We meet the character of Devo, who is hopelessly in love with Rosalie and is trying like hell to convince her. He knows exactly what's going on. He's seen things. He's been a little bit closer to it and is looking at it without rose-colored glasses. This is River Phoenix that plays Devo. He's one of like, I think it's like his 5th or so to last performance before he passed away. And he's so great in this role. He's one of the best in the movie, in my opinion. Like honest to God, there isn't a bad performance in the movie. I think everybody kind of brings it home. On this one, but he's like in a movie of mostly caricatured characters. He and Rosalie are kind of the only grounded ones, which makes him stand out a bit.
Well, yeah, and he seems to have an infatuation with Rosalie at the very least. Would you say, right?
Yeah, to a degree that even Joey notices this and takes note of it. And he kind of jokes around with him with the one scene they're in the pickup truck. He's batting it back and forth and kind of poking fun at his expense. And then also, whenever Devo comes over to the house and Joey asks him to sit down and have a beer and watch the game with him. And Devo's like, oh, no, thank you. Where's Rosalie and Mama Nudge? I'm going to go hang out with them. And then Joey's just looking around like dumbfounded, like, the is this? It's so good. So many like this movie lives in little moments, little tiny moments, and dialogue in spades. This movie has, and it's like those little pocketed moments that just kill me, make me laugh like hell. I didn't mention either. This is actually based on a true story.
What?
Yeah, like this actually happened. Like obviously not in such a comical degree, but like
no. You were about to say this happened exactly as the movie depicted
to a T. They pulled this from the police report. No.
Okay, so what true story
largely
was this based on?
The story is loosely based on the very true story of Frances Toto and her 4 unsuccessful attempts to kill her cheating husband, Anthony Toto, actually right here in Allentown, PA, back in 1984. Anthony spent 4 days in bed after being drugged and shot by Frances and her friends, who spent 4 years in prison after pleading guilty to attempted murder. The TCM website states that this movie's story was inspired by the events and lives of Anthony and Frances Toto and Barry Jacob. So, like, in that respect, it's based on a true story.
Good
but it's
God.
obviously a caricatured version of that. But yeah, so I've always found that to be one of the funny aspects of the movie. Is like, oh, this, like, as humorous and hilarious as this movie is, this actually happens, like, to a degree.
Well, I mean, art imitates life and life imitates art, but they always say, as a writer, you got to be a sponge. You got to be a sea sponge. You got to be a filter feeder. Take everything in around you.
Yeah, and Joey, we find out, is very unwilling to help Rosalie with like the household bills. Typical Italian man, doesn't give a about the actual work. They're constantly saying that he's Superman throughout. He's just constantly working and running like 16 hours a day, and then crashes at home, wakes up and just does it all over again.
Yep.
But as far as like any actual paperwork, he doesn't want to lift a finger. Rosalie begs him to help out with the bills, and he's like, no, I'm going out to the club. That's where he picks up Phoebe Cates, which hilariously enough, a year before this movie was filmed, they got married.
Oh, they did? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I've always found it funny that like the woman that they put up as like the hottest woman in the movie is Kevin Kline's actual wife. Phoebe Cates in the 80s, she was, after Fast Times at Ridgemont High, she was like a big name. She was a big deal.
Well, yeah, and Gremlins too.
Gremlins also, as well as the sequel. She worked for a few years after that, and then she kind of just dipped. She was out.
And I believe they are still married, right? To this day.
They are still married.
Yeah, good for them.
One of the true success stories in Hollywood, for sure.
Well, you say that now and watch, though, before this even comes out.
Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
I'm not, knocking on wood. Okay.
No, yeah, I hold on to that relationship as one of the endearing ones. So.
I mean, in Hollywood, I mean, relationships are hard and any aspect of life.
Yeah.
But in Hollywood, I would imagine even more so. So it can't be a fluke that they've managed to stay together this long.
Yeah. And in Kevin Kline's portrayal of this character, he just almost every single line out of Joey's mouth is a quotable one for the books. The first time we see him sleeping around, he stands up, we see his ass, for one thing. Just the way that whole thing is captured. It's just like he's sitting down and then he stands up and he's wearing an apron, and it's not until we see him walk into the other room and see his ass that we realize that he is the context of the situation. It's really situational joke. But like just in that scene alone, there's a couple quotes that stick out. He's like, I'm a man. I got a lot of hormones in my body. And like there's a double standard nature that we pick up on with Joey. He's constantly talking about he's self-justifying sleeping around on his wife. It's like the one girl offers to cook for him, and he's like, "No, you can't do that. You're not my wife." But they just slept together, and it's like this amazing like double standard backwards weird.
Well, and that and that's that idea of, like you said, you're trying to develop some sense of rooting interest in the character, and it's a comedy too. That's where the comedy comes from. If you wanted to take this,
Joey is like face value so unlikable, and I feel like that's why they gave him all these amazing lines.
Oh yeah,
that are just
they had
so
to.
Funny.
That makes it a little bit more endearing.
Because you like if you weren't laughing at him every step of the way, you would bitterly hate him. So I feel like it's A+ the team.
Like it's the classic rude but funny type character.
Yes.
Like, you know, they're selfish, they're contradictive, they're a bit of a bully, but they're also extremely funny at how they do it, and you can't help but laugh.
Yeah, and in the scene with Phoebe Cates, he's talking about the German Shepherd. He's like, "Is he gonna watch or what?" You know, he's a German Shepherd. It's very awkward for him.
His accent too is like
it's like textbook Luigi. Like he's like definitely is playing
thick.
Luigi.
Yeah. What, for a virus? No.
I just got a little virus. Right when they shoot him in the head, he's like, nah, I just got a little headache. Yeah, and when Rosalie's talking to Devo, she states, because Devo's trying to impress upon her that Joey is sleeping around.
Yeah.
She said, if that were actually true, I'd have to kill myself. And when that didn't work, and that didn't do it for me, I'd have to go and kill Joey.
Yeah, when Devo's character, he's kind of almost, I don't want to say he's kind of had a little bit of a hippie, but he's also...
Oh, yeah, he is. Very much.
I feel like too, but I almost feel like his character...
Later on, they're going to, after they've first shot Joey, they go to get him some aspirin, and they're like fumbling with all the pills on the table, and they're all like trying to figure out the situation, and he's sitting there setting chakra stones on the table. It kills me.
He has that, like, I don't know, is new age, is that the term I'm looking for? I was going to say is, like, I feel like even though this takes place in the 90s, I feel like he's a character that would fit in perfectly in today's world. Devo's
absolutely.
Character.
Even just rewatching this for this episode, I was picking up on a lot of things. I was like, wow, this was a little ahead of its time. Like, he's talking about projection psychology whenever he's in the truck with Joey, and I'm like, wow, this movie was a bit ahead.
Yeah.
Some cool little tidbits like that. And then whenever Rosalie catches Joey in the library, that's like the first tipping point for the plot, wherever she finally has to fully come to terms with the fact that Joey's cheating on her. She sees him in the library through the other side of the bookshelf.
Well, and too, like a good moment in terms of like your script, your story, bolstering it. I think it's in the opening sequence. Can I also say that I love the opening sequence to this?
Oh, I do too.
Like how it's shot with the credits, and
it's borderline Godfather.
They're making the pizza, but it, like, I don't know. I love the flow of it. But there's that one little moment where I think Devo is just trying to convince Rosalie to, I guess, essentially just leave Joey, I think.
Yeah.
But she kind of sticks up for him in the sense of, well, that's okay. He's allowed to, like, look, you know, or
he's
like
an Italian man, you know.
He's
going to do
man.
certain
He's going to do it.
But he would never act on it.
But he would never act. Exactly. Yeah. So even a little scene like that, I think is good. That's, you know, that's the pepper and the salt in the sauce, if you will.
Yeah. Well, there's so many little jokes, but then, like, it's the ball is now rolling that Rosalie is aware. She first, like, her first reaction is she tries to kill herself, but then she snaps out of it, and it's almost like she says to Devo before, she tried to kill herself, but then when that didn't work, she decides she's going to go and kill Joey. Yeah. And she first tells all this to her mother Mama Nadja, and God damn, she's one of the best characters in the movie. Joan Plowright plays this character. We, like, the first time we even see her, they're in a public restaurant as a family with the kids, and she's sitting there at the table soldering a piece of electrical work together at the table while they're all trying to eat. And she hires somebody to go attack Joey and try and kill him. As soon as she hears about this, she's like, "Oh, I know him. He's a good boy." But she's hiring him to kill her son-in-law. And Mr. Abraham Lincoln Mask, son of a bastard man.
You just can't. I think you should just do the rest of the episode in an accent. What do you think?
I know that I this is one of those ones that really like. I know every line in this movie. It is embedded in my brain because I've seen it so many times. And then after the Joey almost gets brained by the Abraham Lincoln bastard man, he gets a gun. He quote unquote gets his gun, and it's just it's a 22 caliber handgun. It's not a real gun. It's just like a range target gun. Like it's not meant to really harm anybody at all. And so that kicks off the plot. Now, also, I didn't even mention that Rosalie is beautifully played by Tracy Ullman.
Yeah.
Tracy Ullman was this is like the start of her big name in the 90s. She got a show on HBO and she was very successful through the 90s. But then they cut the car cables and Grandma Nadja cuts the car cables but doesn't tell Rosalie that she did that. And then this is now the only time that Joey has ever driven Rosalie to work. Mama Nadja runs out to the car to try and get her to stop, to get out of the car, and like she's not getting it. And then Joey just starts the car and then they freak out. It's just so many built up good little moments like that.
No, and great use of dramatic irony there, where we know more than what the characters do.
Yeah, and it just like it builds up to this little moment where Rosalie finally gets it, and it's like and Joey's like, "What the hell's the matter with the two of you?" And he's totally oblivious to the whole thing. One of the great lines in that scene too with the car, Mama Nadja says, "I thought it would be a nice surprise for you." She asks why she didn't tell her. Yeah, and like some great little references, like Joey's watching Bridge on the River Kwai when he's eating the one night.
Yeah, a little nod.
It's at this point that Rosalie and Nadja decide that they're going to try and poison Joey. They pump spaghetti full of two full bottles of sleeping pills.
Yeah.
And they make
Which
it really spicy.
I think would kill anybody, you would think.
Yeah. And Rosalie says he's not human. Like trying to kill some kind of animal. Yeah, and then Nadja's sitting there at the table after Joey's on like bowl 3 with the spaghetti. And he's like, "What, you're not hungry?" And she like wipes off the noodle with all the sauce and like eats the bare single noodle. Like I said, just great little tiny moments is where this one lives.
Well, and this is definitely what I love about it is this is one you can put on anytime. I love movies like that. Like you can.
It's one of those ones that's so embedded in my subconscious. I don't need to pay attention to it. It's one of those ones I can put on in the background.
You can put it on no matter what state you're in.
So many little quotes too that like within my family who've seen it a ton of times, like I can just pull up a board of Monopoly and be like, "I got Monopoly," and like everybody like knows I'm talking about this movie.
Yeah,
like other little quotes from Joey, like want some cheese and crackers.
I know you say that one all the time, and it's seeped into my subconscious now. It's like,
yeah, I can't help but
cheese
quote
and crackers.
What's the matter? We got no food in the house. I don't know if I've met everybody. He's got a bullet wound in his chest, bleeding from the head. The one quote that kills me every single, because I always forget that it's in the movie. It's not till I like sit down and watch it that I remember it's in there. After they poison him and he goes to bed, they think that he's died the first time.
Yeah.
Then he comes walking out the front door. And he's like, "I just had a good crap. That's all I needed." He just pats his stomach and then it cuts to him sitting on the bench with the two of them and he's just farting relentlessly and Mama Nadja's like waving the fan in her face. It's just so good. And it's at this point that they employ Devo because they decide they need to quicken this process. They need to kill Joey because he's not dying and they're afraid he's going to figure out what's going on. So they call Devo, they bring him over there. They're going to use Joey's gun to shoot Joey in the head.
To make it look like an accident or suicide, like, right?
Well, it's not really clear that just like the incompetence is on full display at this point.
Yeah,
they have never done anything like this. They are not thinking that far ahead at all. Like the hole is just getting dug deeper because it's so clear that he will have been murdered at this point.
Yeah.
Like the easiest part to explain would have been if they'd have just gotten away with the sleeping pills and then, they would say he just killed himself or whatever. But like just the incompetence of like the two of them not understanding how to handle this situation is at this point on full display. And then I love the line from Rosalie once they decide they're going to shoot him. She goes, "I want him dead, but I don't want to hurt him."
No, and that's a great line, you know, like
because it fully like displays her state of mind at that point.
Displays her character, but it's a great, you know, juxtaposition. It's that oxymoron moment, like in that line. Like, I want him dead, but I don't want to hurt him.
Yeah, she's just like so absurdly innocent in this whole situation, despite the fact that she's trying to kill her husband.
Yeah.
And River Phoenix, Devo, comes over. He gets the gun. He goes to kill him. And he's like, I can't do this by myself. They all leave the room. And then they hear the gunshot. They run him back upstairs. And Devo goes, I shot him, but I don't know if I hit him. And then he's still not dead. Joey comes downstairs and he says, I got a little headache. I got a little headache. I might take an aspirin and lay down.
And he's in his, like, aren't his PJs like bright white?
Oh, bright white. So like, like we can see the blood coming out of his head onto his shoulder. Like it's blatantly apparent he's been shot in the head. Just visually hilarious on top of all this. And then it's at this point, once they get him back upstairs, get him in bed, and he's still kicking. They have now failed an absurd amount of times to kill this man. And they then send Devo to a dive bar to try and hire people to kill Joey, finish him off. And
my favorite part.
Enter the greatest characters in the history of cinema. Harlan and Marlon.
Harlan and Marlon. Oh, we're Harlan and Marlon. Oh.
But anyway. Beautifully played by William Hurt and Keanu Reeves.
Yes. The one and only in the made-for-TV Reeves. John
version,
Wick himself. This is where John Wick got his training.
Yes. Hilariously enough, I only ever saw this on TV. They always cut out how many times Keanu Reeves says which is an absurd amount of times in this movie. It wasn't until I actually like got a copy of this movie and like heard it in my own setup, I was like, oh, this is not what I've seen.
Oh yeah, this whole time they've been cutting the
whole time. Yeah, and so many Keanu Reeves has every second he is on screen in this movie is gold. Every single second. No shade on William Hurt, but like the moment where Keanu leaves the room for later on for the gunshot and like he looks up at the dinosaur kills me every single time I see it. Every single time. So
one of my favorite little bits is when they're arriving at the house.
Oh my god,
they're going the wrong way.
Well, even like before that, they get out of they first off take a cab to the scene of a murder, of an intended murder, and then they don't have money to pay the cab. They're like thumbing through like gum and receipts in their pocket, and they just like hand the dude like $2, and like the fare is like way more than that, and then they just walk away. And they're walking, they're, like you said, they're walking across the street to the wrong address. And Devo's on the front lawn like, guys,
it's this way. And then just William Hurt's like reaction. I don't know what it is. It's
like borderline Dude Lebowski.
Yeah. That's one of those things where you have to just, it's very subtle, simple. It's not like anything amazing, but it just goes so perfect with the moment.
Yeah.
Just how he like kind of throws his arms up.
Yeah, it's just like, and he's wearing sunglasses at night too on top of it.
Yes.
And he takes them off when he comes inside. Like it would have been easier to see with them on in the house than with them on outside. Oh, I love the part too when they bring Harlan and Marlon into the house. They're obsessing over one of the first things we see in the movie. Once you're in the house, they show a copy of Sun, the Sun magazine, which was like a common tabloid in the 90s.
Yeah.
And Mama Naja and Harlan and Marlon are all obsessing over a kangaroo giving birth to a human baby.
Essentially, it was the TikTok, the social media before social media.
Yeah, like it was like, what absurd thing could you see in this? It was always like something like world news, whatever was always the Bat Boy. Like every one of those things had their thing. But Keanu Reeves goes, "Is that legal? Like having sex with a kangaroo?" Every single line out of Keanu's mouth in this is absolute gold.
Oh yeah, I wonder how much was just them riffing and how much was the script.
Oh, I think there was a lot of riffing.
Yeah.
I didn't mention too before, but the Abraham Lincoln Man was voiced by the same actor as one of the cops, and that's what I meant in the first portion of this. I was talking about like there's some little notes of how low budget this was, and that's one of them. Like they doubled up on some of their actors, and like they didn't show the guy who was first sent to kill Joey at all. You just hear his voice. And then when he shows up, he's in the mask, but it's the second of the cops is the actor who voices that character. And I found that out like one of the earliest times I saw this, and I was always fascinated by that.
I think too, like if I was to compare this in terms of like the feel you get from it, you almost get I want to say it gives me that Goonies feel when I watch this movie, you know, like, and it came out around the same time.
It's like a comedy of errors thing, but also like a comedy of delirium to a degree. It's just like a bunch of people like vastly out of their depth and trying to perpetuate this situation. And that's how I feel a lot of Coen Brothers movies go. That's why I kind of attribute it into a similar arena.
Yeah.
Like 1,000 Little Moments with Harlan and Marlon. When they're negotiating their price at the bar, and Devo goes, 300 isn't much. Devo's like, he's already dying, and Keanu goes, it's still murder. It's still, and then they shout the word, like they keep it quiet, but then they shout the word murder in this public setting.
What a thing to do, though.
Yeah, like their whole existence is just ludicrous. Like clearly strung the hell out the whole time they're on screen. Just absolutely hilarious. Like when they're talking about and when they're finally brought in to shoot Joey in the chest, Mama Nadja is like trying to find music to cover
up the gunshot.
Cover up the gunshot sound. They realize that the bat that Keanu picked up and downstairs is a Reggie Jackson bat. And they're shouting Reggie, Reggie, Reggie after Reggie Jackson. And while Nadja's downstairs trying to find a record to put on, they all think that they're asking for reggae music.
Yeah. I forgot about it. I didn't catch that the first time I watched it.
So yeah, like so many good little things. And like they go through the whole Pledge of Allegiance thing. They're like, which side is the heart on?
It's like
school.
You
know. Hand over your heart.
I know kung fu. No, go ahead.
The dude's only a taxi driver. It's not like he's, what's his name? What's his name? And then William Hurt's just like, oh yeah.
They work perfectly, but it's not the kind of comedic duo you would expect if you think of them now. But I'm trying to think if they have been in anything together recently. I don't think.
Nothing. I don't think that they've been in anything together other than that, to be honest.
But it would be, I mean, I don't know, maybe they don't have a good relationship, who knows, but I feel like it'd be hard to not have a good relationship with Keanu Reeves.
Could be one of those things too. It's like you want to keep that dynamic specifically to something that you hold in reverence. Yeah. I know a lot of actors do that. Like if they specifically hold a collaboration in reverence, they won't work together after that to just keep it realm of gold. Various things. I can't think of a specific example, but it might be one of those.
Various things. It's a real thing, but I can't think of anything.
It's a real thing. Not that I can
point anything out to it or reference it, but it's real.
But it's real. It's a thing. They finally shoot Joey in the chest. They come downstairs and they're like, "Is he dead?" Yeah, and then Rosali starts crying, and Keanu says, "What happened? Did we kill the wrong person?"
I still like the part when Harlan's William Hurt's character, he's about to do the shooting. He's like, this side. Like they have to constantly keep reminding themselves, okay, I want this side. But then he puts the gun to Joey's chest and he's doing it off of his right. Yeah.
He's shooting him on the left side. We'll just read him as rats and kill him. Where are you going to shoot him? Right here. Where do you think I'm going to shoot him? I'm not going to take him downtown. And then, of course, after they've shot him again, he's now been shot twice, drugged with 2 full bottles of sleeping pills. And what's her name? Rosalie is praying because she's now seeking forgiveness from God for what she's done. She's in total repent of killing her husband. And as she's praying, Joey shows up right next to her. And Rosalie, thinking she's seeing a ghost, backs up, trips over all the records that have been pulled out on the couch. And they say, Joey, don't you want to go back upstairs? Wow, it's for a little virus.
Yeah, for a little virus. And one thing, too, there's not a whole lot, and you said that it was a smaller budget, but there's not a whole lot of different locations in this, which is one thing I like about it.
Like they made maximum use of everything that they had, and that's why movies like this are gems, because it forces you to focus on the dialogue, on the characters, maximize all those elements of the storytelling. And I think if you get those wheels turning and all those things clicking in place, it can really start to work.
And I've said it before, but this type of story, those event or those like the rhythm of day to night, it's all happening in one day, essentially, I think.
Yeah,
for the most part. At least the bulk
of this story takes. Yeah,
and then when we
once
get to the ending,
once they go after the plot to give him the sleeping pills, everything from that point takes place in one night.
Yeah,
like the scope of the earlier, like the first act and through a lot of the earlier parts, like that takes place over about a week or so.
Okay,
but once the ball gets rolling on what they're actually trying to do, they like the bulk of the story focuses on one single location and one point in time.
Yeah, the simplicity of the story is one of the things I love about it.
Yeah, heard a little noise like a firecracker, woke me up. And that's where the infamous line comes into play, where Joey's like, "What's the matter? You're not going to feed anybody? We got no food in the house?"
We got no food in the house?
Or what? And then Harlan and Marlon introduce themselves, and then they realize that they're giving their actual names, and that they were plotting to kill this guy, and they like backpedal on it. I'm William Brown. That's also where we get some cheese and crackers.
Yeah,
some pretzels
cheese and crackers, the pretzels.
Absolute god tier comedy.
Well, they do a good job too. Like a lot of his reveals after he's been shot, or drugged, whatever.
Yeah, all of the above.
They do a good job of using the negative space in the frame to fill it in later, to fit, him coming down. Again, there's that using dramatic irony in a filmic way to heighten not only the tension, but the comedy of the moment.
Yeah, it's like it manages to do both at the same time. And that's kind of like a grabbed trope by the Coen brothers, where it's like it's a serious situation, but it's playing out comedically.
And
like
and
a man has
to,
been shot,
and just for me to
but like he's zombifying, like showing up time and time again, just these comedic ways.
Yeah, and just for me to define it succinctly, dramatic irony is like a writer's bread and butter, and it simply is just when you know more than all the characters in the scene, essentially.
To quote Ron Swanson, "I know more than you."
Yeah, I mean, you see it all the time. Like, see here now, I can't think of an example, but it's there.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us.
Well, like, you see it like when horror does it all the time, when it's like clearly don't go in that house, but the character goes in the house anyway.
Yeah, commonly in horror movies. And then there's a nice little callback. Also, we've made the quote before. I threw this into the notes just because like it made me think of the few times we've quoted it. Whenever Joey's been shot twice, he's drugged, delirious out of his mind. Like when he's walking through the downstairs, and then he just turns around randomly at one moment. He's like, "Hello, Devo." They're walking him back up the stairs. There's a nice little callback to the beginning when we saw his ass when he was cheating, and his pants fall down, and he goes, "Whoops." And then they pay off Harlan and Marlon to leave, and they give them $200 despite agreeing upon $5. And they start arguing with it, and Devo says, "For killing him $5, for wounding him $2.
Yeah.
You woke him up. What good is that?"
Well, look again, Webhead. It said $3,000 for 3 minutes, and you pinned him in 2. I got you for 3 minutes. Playtime. Oh yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and then immediately after this, we think that that's the last time we're ever going to see Harlan and Marlon. We think that they're done, they're out. And they walk off, like they have a beautiful scene there where they like walk off in different directions.
Yeah. I would be curious to see if this is that sort of reverence performance that you're talking about.
I would hope that it is, because I personally hold it as such.
Well, if either one of us ever meets William Hurt or Keanu Reeves, we're going to have to ask him.
Yeah.
So we're like, "I don't want your autograph or anything. I don't want you to get me a job." And it's like they offer, it's like, "I'll get you a job." No. I don't want
No, that's all right. I just need to know this.
I just need to know this. That's it.
And then they have their really great seemingly last lines where William Hurt says, "Next time we do this, we're getting paid in advance."
Yep.
And then Keanu Reeves says, if we keep shooting Joey, don't you think he might start get suspicious?" And then they start walking off in different directions, not realizing that they're walking away from each other. But then, like, to propel the plot forward, we find out that immediately after that, they've gone to a bar and they've been bragging that they got hired to shoot Joey Boca for $5,000. And just immediately after that, our two cops that we met at the beginning of the movie show up to try and assess the situation, see if this is a load of bull or not. And they examine Joey, find out that he's been shot twice. He's got a bullet in him. And then Devo starts walking out of the room as the cops found this. And they tell Devo to stop. And he's like, oh, I was going to go get a Band-Aid for Joey.
Yeah, you don't.
At this point, the jig is like fully up. Like they're all caught. They call an ambulance for Joey. They paddy wagon everybody out there.
Mm-hmm. You don't ever feel rushed in this movie.
No, it's paced pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I would say the only, when we're getting to the ending here with it, I would say that you could argue that might be the only thing that feels a little rushed with how it ends, but that's more of a nitpick, I think.
Yeah, it does kind of drop off there at the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as like they start rushing into the next act, they montage things out a little bit.
I say that too because it would be that would be the challenge of something like this. It would be hard. It's like, okay, how do we end it, but how do we keep it funny still, And that's, I think, lies an inherent challenge.
Yeah, because if you stretch it out too much, you lose all that comedy.
Yeah.
It starts becoming a serious situation.
It's like you got to be careful again. It goes back to the earlier example I said. Okay, and just how like Joey's getting like mangled and destroyed. If you brought in someone to like flay him alive, it probably wouldn't work as well. Now you could do the bit.
Yeah.
You could make like a one-off, like maybe Harlan could make a joke and say, we'll flay him for an extra fee or something.
Yeah.
And then they just don't even know, they don't even know what that is. But like if you actually did that, then it's like, ooh, that's where it can go south. But yeah,
I'm a big believer, like some of the best comedy is misunderstanding.
Yeah. Yeah. Miscommunication or misunderstanding. Yeah.
Miscommunication, misunderstanding, people being on completely different wavelengths.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that's a lot of what this movie operates on. Like Harlan and Marlon just don't have a freaking clue. And to a large degree, neither do Nadia or Rosalie. They just want to kill Joey, but they're not thinking about the ramifications of any of it. So it's like there's a lot of comedy of errors, misunderstandings, miscommunications to 2 degrees. Like just total absurd chaos.
Yeah.
And as the montage out says, when they're doing surgery on Joey, they pull the bullet out and it's got a spaghetti noodle on it because his head fell in the spaghetti bowl. And they're going through with the police are interrogating everybody. And I love Larry Kasdan has his cameo as Devo's lawyer. And Devo's speaking everything in like a hyper legalese. He's like, if I were to have been there,
And I'm not saying I was.
And Larry Kasdan keeps having lines saying that he's just saying that he's a patriotic American. He's not saying that. After watching this, I the other day I was in the hospital with my dad. I asked him how he was doing. He did that like surfer signal, like back and forth. And then I was watching it and Joey does the exact same thing.
Oh, really? Does he? Oh, that's pretty okay.
And I was like, has this movie wormed its way that deep into my family's subconscious?
That's possible.
And then Joey's mother is in Harry Potter. She was just recently back in the press for telling Harry Potter fans they need to grow up.
Oh, that's right. I forgot she. Oh, yeah. I forgot that she shows up. That's right.
And then she continues to slap him upside the head. What's her name? Margolis something?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she.
Which I'll just do.
He's like, Mama, I got the bullet in my head. She slaps him like 4 more times in the head.
I'll do the quick thing on that about Harry Potter need to grow up with it. I totally disagree.
Yeah, I do too. As much as I respect the sentiment and, being an adult, it's like I very much hold reverence for protecting your innocence.
But I mean, you could make the argument, how is it any different from being a Steelers fan and like people who spend tons of money on Steelers gear, tons of money on tickets. It's like, how's that?
Let people be happy.
Yeah. Just let them do what they're not hurting anyone.
Yeah. It's like the meme, like, let people enjoy things.
Yeah.
I do love the gag, though, of Joey going, Mama, I got the bullet in my head. And she goes, you should have 2 bullets, 3 bullets. She keeps smacking him in the head because, like, that's an Italian family.
Yep.
1,000%. I give you such a beating, she says. And then, Joey drops the charges. He goes and meets with the cops. And he says, maybe she had plenty of good reason to try to kill me. And then they're showing the reactions of the cops. Like, holy what is this?
Well, I mean, like I said, this would be a tough one, I think, to try and find a worthwhile ending too.
Yeah, I think what they did works pretty solid.
You want that sort of reconciliation. I feel like you have to have it in the tone of this story.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of promised.
I don't know that it sells fully in the ending when I'm looking at it pragmatically, but I do love the very last line with Mama Nadja. I think that sells it pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
It has a very like Weekend at Bernie's kind of ending.
Yeah.
But I think it works for what it's. And we do get a last little moment whenever they're pulling everybody out for the drop charges. Harlan and Marlon show up for one last little bit. And Keanu doesn't remember who Joey is. And he's like, he's the guy.
The guy.
And then Joey mentions brings up all the things, and he's like, I to let Rosali out, I have to drop charges for everybody.
Yeah.
And when they're walking away after they've left Joey, Keanu goes, "Who's Rosali?" And then he walks right into a door.
Which I am interested, again, this is more like in the real world. Even if he does drop the charges, would that work though? In real life, would that be enough to let them go?
Oh yeah, if the person that you shot, legally, you got the state has no case.
Okay, I didn't know if the state would have to.
Honestly, that depends state to state. States will have different.
I mean, clearly, most of the time, either someone's going to prosecute or they're dead. So
typically, how that will play out though is if the state wants to prosecute and the victim is not supporting it, the state won't even bother making a case because it's just wasted money.
Uh-huh.
So, obviously, there's probably exceptions to that, but that's going to be the common occurrence. I got a bullet in my head, and I've never felt better. And he gives Nadja claims the box of chocolates that he has for Rosali. He's trying to make amends, and she just reaches for it and grabs him, tells him that next time bring hard candy because that's her favorite. Joey expresses that Rosali saved his life despite the fact that she tried to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he does the age-old trope of naming the title of the movie.
Yep.
Says, "She loves me to death." And then Mama Nadja gets that last little moment there of Devo says, "What if he turns out to not be faithful and if he can't uphold his newfound reverence of his wife?" And Mama Nadja says, "Well, then we shoot him again."
We shoot him again, yep.
Great last little moment. I do believe that this movie is just a sheltered little gem. Not a ton of people know about it. And when I introduced it to you and you really loved it, I was like, I didn't think that this was a movie that people genuinely loved. I thought it was just one that I found randomly and it's just not a super well known thing.
Yeah.
But it apparently is one that's pretty funny to people, and I genuinely hope more people find it and fall in love with it the way I did, because it's this crazy little gem of a movie. Mr. Abraham Lincoln mask, son of a bastard, man.